I had this plan on what I was going to talk about today and a bunch of stuff that I really thought, man, super cool. We can do some really neat things and talk about some cool stuff today. And with what happened in Nashville today, I just decided instead today might be a time for the tough conversation, to have the discussion about why these things are happening and how we as a country can get past these things. And while I do so, if we're going to handle tough topics, modern problems require modern solutions. Hmm. There we go. Um, so we're gonna have a special guest that joins me in this seat on occasion, and she's gonna be out here in a. Oh, I gave away who it was. Um, she comes on from time to time. She'll be with us again today. Um, Before she comes out, I want to lead with. I'm not going to give any time to the story itself because it's so terrible, and it's another line of terrible stories that all have these same situations that led up to them. And here's kind of where I want to start with. Personally, based on the information we have so far and the information we had on the Uvalde shooting and some of these other mass shootings, in my opinion, and I've said this a couple times on the channel before, you might be surprised to hear it from me. I think people should have to have a class to own a AR-15, AK-47, whatever you want to call it, style platform. I don't think you should just be able to buy one of these things off the shelf and take it same day. I think there should be a little bit more extensive background checks on these things. And I 100% think if you want to learn how to fly an airplane, you can't just go rent one. If you want to learn how to fly a helicopter, you can't just go be like, cool, that's the one I want. We're out of here. You actually have to take a class and prove that you're not going to do anything crazy. You're not going to crash it into somebody's house or crash it into a yard. You know the rules. And I think that these weapons, in reality, at this point in the world that we're living in, kind of need that same sort of situation. Like, is there any situation that I think we as Americans should be restricted on our firearms? No. I think we should be able to own anything on the planet. I think the deal with like suppressors and full auto, so stupid. I mean, there's no reason that these things should be restricted. Suppressors make it easier to shoot because you don't have to wear as much hearing protection, more comfortable for the people around you who maybe don't want to hear the sound of freedom continuously for an hour like we do. And full auto, I've talked about it before. Full auto is one of those things. It's not like the movies. It's not accurate at all. I'm here to tell you, like, full auto is good for one thing, and that's suppression. Because a lot of what we do when we have an enemy is we like to fix their position, maneuver on them, and then kill them from a position of our choosing. And how do we do that? Full auto, good old fashioned American muscle, just laying it down over their heads so that they can't get up and move. Um, Anyways, back to topic. But I really do think that's important, is accepting that this is not just a black and white issue where it's guns are the problem or people are the problem. It's a complex issue that I think begins right there. It begins with looking at the weapons that we're allowing people to buy and not taking them away. Taking them away. Hello, Reno, Nevada. Uh, I'm sure that it is lovely in Reno this time of year. Uh, but I think that it's a little more complex. It's not so simple as, because that's going to be the next step. Tomorrow, there's going to be 100 people bringing out all, gun laws. We need more gun laws. We need, regulation, regulate. And it's not so simple. It is not as easy as that, because if we regulate these weapons, people are still going to get their hands on them. I mean, look at Illinois. Illinois, especially Chicago, has some of the worst murder rates in America and some of the most stringent gun laws. So, all right, how do we handle that? We're just going to come out and say, okay, cool. Yeah, they're illegal now. All right, well, they're out in Illinois and Chicago. Shoot, I wouldn't go to Chicago without some full auto. Like, well, I need to suppress the whole city so I can get the heck out of there. So how are we going to handle that? You know? So I think that the beginning portion of this needs to be the discussion of, okay, we need to do a little bit more to regulate these things in terms of forcing people to take some classes and actually get their stuff together, and prove that's what they're going to do. That they're going to learn how to operate these weapons and comfortably know how to use them, as opposed to just having some super fancy $2,000 gun you just have in your safe that you have no idea how to operate, no idea how to clean it, no idea what it can do. So I think that right there, I think I would say is part number one of this multifaceted response to why are these mass shootings continuing to happen. So I think that for me is thing number one. I think part number two, and this is my opinion more than anything, and something I think is entirely feasible and we can 100% see, is I know, speaking well beyond just myself, I have a significant number of friends who are veterans that retired from the military and they just have money. Like they're getting the retirement checks, they've got a second job, they have nothing else to do with their time. So create a vetting process where we can take these veterans who have nothing but time, who have combat experience. They have to have the qualifications and the vetting and the know-how to actually bring them into the schools with registered firearms, their own body armor, their own training, and say, hey, your job is to just hang out at the school today. Today's Monday, your day is Monday. Your job's just to hang out. You're not an SRO, because look at what happened in Uvalde, Texas. All those police in the hallway listening to those kids get killed. And why? The real answer, they were afraid. They were afraid and they were told not to go. And I'm here to tell you, I think I speak for every single veteran friend that I have that's been to combat. That's not happening. Not at all. I'm not going to sit in that hallway and listen to some kids get murdered. I will go down blazing before I allow that to happen. And I speak for these other guys the same way. Yeah, same with yeah, absolutely. At Parkland, Florida, same sort of deal. You know, I mean, take these people who have high levels of military training, especially while we're still here, because we're only getting, well, they're only getting older. I'm not getting older. I stay young, you know, forever. But you know, those of us with combat experience are valuable for this, because we actually know how to react and how we are going to react when these situations happen. And another facet of that that's super beneficial, in my opinion, a lot of us would do it for absolutely free, if only to protect the schools. And on top of that, with a little bit of anonymity in that level, you can't call me on the radio and say, hey man, stand down. We got SWAT will be here in 30 minutes. I'd be like, oh, what's up? Your transmission's coming in garbled. I can't hear you. Turn it off and I'm on my way. And I think that is the second thing that really would make a heck of a difference in these situations. I mean, yes. Is it necessarily the best thing on the planet to put more armed people in schools? Yeah, it actually is. I mean, you know, they always talk about with concealed carry, a lot of these times you see the good guy with the gun thing. And aside from that altogether, you know, a lot of these, you're seeing it at all these shootings where these school resource officers they're afraid. And they should be. A lot of these people, all they have is training. They don't know what a two-way shooting range feels like. They don't know how it feels when the other person in the hallway is shooting back. And a lot of these people don't have the ability to respond. They just freeze. It happens. It happens in combat, happens all the time. But flip side of that is there's people who do the exact opposite. They run toward the sound of gunfire. And we can take these people, these veterans, these former police officers, let them come into the schools, vet them, make sure their training is correct and they are who they say they are. And magically, you've got a really good protective force. I mean, look at what happens in Israel. In Israel, sort of stuff is unheard of. And the reason it's unheard of is because there are tons of training. Teachers are armed, principals are armed. All of their police and military get real world training. And this sort of stuff doesn't happen there. And I mean, name another country on the planet that has more people trying to do terrible stuff than Israel. I mean, there's countries who have literally dedicated their entire existence to destroying Israel, and yet somehow this stuff doesn't happen. So I think those are the first two parts of this. So, hi, Lauren.
Hello.
Here she is. Here she is, everyone. The special guest.
Hi.
Hi. So, so I'm talking with them about the school shooting and my thoughts on how we can handle that. So the first thing that I've discussed is people should have to take a class if they're going to own an AR.
Absolutely. I had a class. Concealed carry.
Boom.
From you.
Class.
Military husband.
So that's part number one. Part number two, I think, was the idea I was talking about before about bringing veterans in and putting us in the schools because we know what it feels like to be shot at in a lot of ways.
Totally different world. I mean, I couldn't go into an actual combat situation and be able to just pick up a rifle and know how to reload it and know where the safety is and know all this stuff automatically. You have to have experience with this. And our children deserve to be safe.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, like uh, before Columbine, like I was never afraid. I mean, there was always like the kid who would get suspended because he had a BB gun in his backpack, but
But it was because he went deer hunting the weekend before with his dad.
right, yeah, and I
It
knew
wasn't
kids
because
in
he
high
was
school.
bringing the gun to school to try to kill anybody.
Yeah, like before Columbine, there was no, this stuff never was even discussed. And I think that's the real big elephant in the room is what has changed from the 90s to now.
Social media.
Yeah. Social media has made stuff cool that was not cool. And
It's exposed our kids to a lot of things they didn't get exposed to in the past.
yeah, exactly.
Well, and I know mental health for a while there, late 90s, early 2000s, as a mental health professional, I know that the funding was completely, I mean, this gets political and I'm not going there, but the funding was removed for a while. It was not considered to be top priority. And I can remember being in school as a therapist and hearing how the politicians were affecting my career field. The mental health organizations that are in play today are much more advanced and much more aware of mental health. 90% of Americans feel like we are all in a mental health crisis in this country. And 50% of those people surveyed feel like it's in their own family. Like they can see the anxiety, they can see the depression, but they don't know what to do about it. And where do you turn? I mean, there's still a stigma associated. Why am I holding this thing up? So you want a drink? Why? What do I do with my hands?
Car running real good. Real happy. I don't really know.
Anyway, it's serious stuff.
Yeah, and I think part of that too is you see with social media and all this stuff. It's like Eddie just said a second ago. The American family, even just the nuclear family, is disintegrating. You know, where kids come home, they go straight to their room and play violent video games. Dad's in one room watching something, mom's somewhere else. There's no family time.
Honestly, I was raised in that model, and I was severely, majorly depressed as a high schooler. So, and it's not like it's any different than it was in the 90s. It's still happening. And I mean, we can't really blame anybody but ourselves. We personally, as parents, have to take on the responsibility for turning the TV off and going and dragging our children out of their rooms by their hair and playing Candyland.
I do love Candyland. I like Chutes and Ladders too. Chutes and Ladders is another good one, but I think so 100%. And along those same lines, they create in the universe today so many stigmas related to mental health and all these different mental health things, where it's almost the pendulum is almost swung too far, where it's like, it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to need a mental health day. These things are okay.
Yeah, but too often that's now the excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
I need a mental health day. I'm just going to call into work. That's not something you can take lightly. If you need a mental health day, it means you really need to go talk to your therapist. You need to talk to your doctor. If you need medication, here's where I go. I mean, you go where you got to go within reason. Okay, people. Now, I'm not saying that medication works for everybody, because it doesn't. It's not a one-stop shop. You have to think about the cognitive therapy, and you have to have a supportive emotional group within your family unit. There's a lot that goes into having a secure and safe place to fall when you come home from that stressful day at work, or when our kids come home from the issues that they're dealing with at school, because they're dealing with some adult stuff that we didn't necessarily have to deal with. Social media has exposed our kids to crazy adult stuff that I didn't think my 12-year-old was ever going to know about.
Yeah, levels of toxicity just on the comment section, on the things that they are fed from TikTok and all this stuff.
I mean, I had those internal negative feelings about myself just from me. I can't imagine having that stuff from everybody at school, or being exposed, even as parents. And we have Family Link, we have all of these different social media filters that we're trying to put our kids' stuff through, but it's not helping. I mean, they're still somehow finding ways to feel depressed about themselves.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of that is we were fed growing up along the same lines, uh, an idea of image. Here's what you should look like. Here's what you should wear. Here's what you should want to do. And now they're being fed 24/7 just that. Where if you
Hmm.
don't look like this isn't what you're doing, this isn't that, then
But it's not a specific image anymore. It's the image now is from every perspective. There's not just one
yeah,
thing you're trying to be, so everybody's confused.
yeah. And the confusion leads to frustration. The frustration leads to anger, and then stuff like today happens.
I can only imagine the microcosm of the situation that their family is in right now, and my like I could start crying right now. My heart hurts for the person that felt like they had no other options. My heart hurts for the families. Like I'm literally going to start crying.
Yeah.
My
It's
heart hurts for the families. My heart hurts for the teachers, the politicians, and the people in authority in the area that have to deal with this. How do you deal with something so traumatic? I can't even fathom. God take them in his hands and bless these people and help heal their hearts, because that's where it has to go. There's no human being that can fix this at this point. So I just got to have faith.
and again, I think that there needs to be a tough conversation. Like the NRA dudes, Eddie, have to come off of the NRA
Eddie,
platform. The super pro gun platform. They have to kind of pull back from that a little bit. Then at the same time, like the ultra gun regulating side needs to come off of it a little bit too and realize that it's more nuanced than just guns are the problem or
this is not a platform
more
to
gun
stand
problem.
on. This is a
Yeah, like
family. These are people.
let's be on the platform of making schools safe and how we get there and making America less violent and less dangerous. And there's a lot that goes into that because on one hand, if you put firearms in the hands of people who are prepared to protect good people and make sure nothing happens to them, that's another layer of security because how many times do you see that somebody goes on a rampage, cops get called, and by the time they're there, it's over?
Right.
And it just takes the
There's got to
right
be
person at the right time.
preparation. And the National
Exactly.
Institute for Mental Health and Substance Abuse has recently put out, in last December, they have allotted $35 million in government funding for mental health in our country, an additional $35 million. We spend about $6.4 billion in mental health in this country every year. And it takes people, it takes therapists, it takes individuals who are willing to step up and work in this field and try to help these kids, because at 28 years old, you're a kid. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a 1-year-old when I was 28. These are kids, and they're out there alone, and they're bombarded with all of the social media and all the negativity of the human race. And we need healthcare providers who are willing to step up and go out and try to get these grants and lead these community resource centers that are going to help these kids. And I need more of that on social media.
Yeah. And, I think the final thing that I think is a big deal here, I think there needs to be, and not to make this put the wrong way, teachers need more discipline. Teachers need to realize that they're the final line of defense. I mean, you look at the one in
They also
Texas,
need to get paid more.
paid more, pay teachers more money. But you look at like the Uvalde one in Texas. You know how the guy got in the building? A door propped open. That school was exactly like the school our girls go to, where
Yeah,
they
they
have
prop the door
huge
open
wrought
in the
iron
morning.
fences and all this great level of protection, but then prop a door open. No, you can't do that. Like you have to realize like you're on a security detail. Like you are the executive agent of your own security. And that is what you have to do. You have to lock the doors and you have to accept it sucks. I can't go outside and smoke.
But you know how we are.
Yeah.
People are this way. We get complacent. We go in cycles. We'll be on high alert because this happened again in the US. And then a month from now we'll be off alert, and again because we have student activities happening at 7 a.m., but the teachers don't show up till 7:45. So they'll leave the door propped open. Yeah, this is how it happens. But that's human nature.
I think so. I mean, but the thing is, one of the things there was a little sign in Afghanistan that said there is no day off, and it's absolutely correct
Welcome to
because
motherhood.
yeah, there's no days off ever, motherhood. But that's one of the things. Like in this case, you teachers need to realize that in a lot of ways they need to be prepared for these things too, because they are the literal last line of defense.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get complacent, another 2-in-1 episode, complacency kills. I mean, when you're flying helicopters, it's super easy to go out and say, you know what, I did pre-flight a couple days ago. I don't need to do it. It's been closed up.
As a hand
Everything's fine.
therapist, you don't know exactly what you're doing. You're messing somebody up for life.
Yep, exactly.
Serious consequences.
But, you know, I think that's where all these things come together. You know, you increase mental health across the spectrum because a lot of people are dealing with all kinds of crap. You increase not regulation on guns, but you make it where
education
on them goes up. Then put veterans in schools. Let me protect some kids. I'll take care of that crap. You won't come into school shooting?
As long as they've been through their mental health properly.
Of course. Well, and that's why they have to be vetted properly, I think. And then the last part of the linchpin is not more training for teachers, but better training, where they learn how to barricade a room and tons more money. Give teachers more money, all of it. Give them all the money, but more education for teachers in terms of how to defend their room, how to make a door barricaded, and then on top of that, I
hate that teachers are. That's not what you go into a teaching degree. Like you don't go in that field for that.
But you know,
I mean, that should be incorporated into their curriculum, because you're going to be held accountable and responsible for the lives of these children. You're going to have to be able to defend them. That should be a class. Why are we not teaching our children this in college? I mean, they got to get a master's degree. Throw another class in there that's going to prepare them for real life. I mean, I totally wasn't prepared for real life as a OT.
I'm not entirely sure that I'm prepared today for real life.
Well, you live with me, so you're fine.
But yeah, I mean, you know, turn your classroom into a battlefield. Make it so they can't get in the room. B, if they get in the room, you make it.
I mean, we do tornado drills.
Difficult as you possibly can.
All this stuff.
If their intent is to hurt everybody in the room anyways, everybody grabs something heavy, and as soon as that door opens, we mob that fool.
But how confident, how prepared are the administrators in doing this type of training with civilians?
Again, that's the tough talk that needs to be had. It just is.
I mean, have to have it with me.
I don't know. But you know, that's really the thing that I wanted to talk about today. You know,
you did a good job.
Thanks. It's another one of those things that here we are again talking about the same crap we've been talking about, and more parents whose kids will never get off the school bus.
Don't make me cry.
And that's terrible. And there has to be a solution. Just accepting the situation as it is has got to stop. Like, the gun lobby needs to shut the heck up on this one, and the anti-gun rights people need to shut the heck up on this one, and they have.
We all just need to get along.
Yeah, come up with a plan and how we're going to affect it, because we're only seeing more of these things. Like, it used to be one in a long, long while, and now she is awesome.
What were you saying?
She is awesome. But we have to just quit accepting that this crap's going to happen, because not only is it going to continue to happen, it's going to get worse. Like, the one today left a manifesto because they know it garners attention. That's terrible. And we have to come up with some way to stop. I mean, I think around here, our schools do a heck of a job. Every time I go to the school, it is hard target. It's tough to get into. You have to pass several layers of security. I mean, the physical security,
the technology is in place now.
And I think we have to use
if we could just create that infrastructure throughout the country. I mean, there should be absolutely more federal funding. They shouldn't just leave it up to the county to pass a tax levy to promote security in our schools, because somebody from some other state could come to your school and do this stuff to you. It should be nationwide. Everybody, our children deserve safety, and there's no reason for it to not be in place. The technology is out there, and
the money's out there. I mean, you look at the amount of money that we give foreign countries that we know for a fact can't stand us and are 100% state sponsors of terrorism. We give them money, and that money could 100% go to these projects.
Yep.
I mean, I think these are the solutions. You know, these are the.
Why don't you run for governor?
I'd vote for me. Vote maybe. She has to think about whether or not she'd vote for me. It's fine. She would possibly. But I mean, I think those are the things I need to talk about. I don't think that there's. I don't think any one of these things makes exactly the right answer, but I think you combine all these things together, you at least get an answer, which is way better than where we are right now.
Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, there are people that are just like us, working for this. They're working. They're trying. They're working hard.
The problem is the gun and anti-gun lobbies have a
A
lot of
lot of
money.
money.
And if you want to
It's
get
all about
elected,
money.
you know what you need?
A lot of
A
money.
lot of money. And that's the problem.
Capitalist society. What are you gonna do?
Boom.
Boom.
Well, all right, y'all. That was the big thing that I want to talk about today. I would like to thank my special guest, who is awesome, for coming on the channel today. So thank you.
You have to say that because you live with me.
That's fair. But thank you guys so much for coming on and commenting and watching today. We just wanted to come on and talk about it for a little bit and get it going. So thank you guys so much for watching today and Blind Listens. So have a great evening and thank you guys so much. Bye.